Picture yourself as a young mother in Constantinople, 1453. The mighty walls, your city's shield for over a millennium, collapse under relentless Ottoman cannon fire. Your husband perished 3 days ago defending the ramparts. Now, as Turkish soldiers batter your door, you cradle your infant daughter, dreading a fate that makes his death seem merciful. For 6 centuries, the Ottoman Empire dominated 3 continents, from Vienna's gates to Yemen's deserts. We celebrate their architectural triumphs, like the Blue Mosque and the strategic genius of sultans who reshaped history. Yet, a darker truth lies buried in forgotten archives. A conquest strategy that turned human lives into tools of subjugation. If this hidden history captivates you, please subscribe and share where you're watching from. It fuels our work. When Ottoman forces breached a city's defenses, victory triggered a chillingly methodical process, far beyond military need. This was systematic exploitation, executed with cold precision across countless towns. On May 29, 1453, when Constantinople fell, Sultan Mehmed's army didn't just plunder and leave. They enacted the harvesting protocol, a policy detailed in Ottoman military manuals. Byzantine chroniclers recorded horrors that haunt like nightmares, while Ottoman records framed these as standard procedure. The protocol was brutal in its efficiency. Men over 12 were rounded up and executed in organized groups after surrender, not to neutralize threats, but to erase future resistance. Boys as young as 6 faced death if deemed defiant, a lesson learned from past rebellions. Women and girls, however, faced a grimmer fate. Ottoman military law, preserved in Turkish archives, outlined population processing with bureaucratic clarity. Women were sorted in public squares, often amid burning churches or ruined civic halls, amplifying terror. They were categorized by age, health, and perceived worth, a dehumanizing spectacle designed to break spirits. This wasn't random violence, but a calculated policy woven into the empire's expansion. The Ottomans perfected a system where conquest meant not just territorial gain but the total domination of a population's will. While history glorifies their mosques and military feats, the archives reveal a machine of conquest that thrived on fear and control, leaving scars on those like you, a mother clutching her child, facing an empire's merciless efficiency. In 1453, Constantinople, a young mother clutches her infant daughter as Ottoman soldiers breach her home. The city's ancient walls, once unyielding, lie broken. Her husband's death defending them pales before the horrors awaiting her. The Ottoman Empire, spanning 3 continents for 6 centuries, is celebrated for its Blue Mosque and strategic brilliance. Yet, its conquests hid a brutal system, buried in archives, that turned human lives into instruments of control. On May 29, 1453, when Constantinople fell, Sultan Mehmed's forces unleashed the harvesting protocol, a chillingly efficient policy. Byzantine chroniclers recorded scenes of terror. Ottoman records deemed them routine. Men over 12 were systematically executed after surrender, not as threats but to crush future resistance. Boys as young as 6 were killed if defiant. Women faced a grimmer fate, sorted in public squares amid burning churches for maximum psychological impact. Young women 14 to 25 were prime assets, 4,200 in Constantinople, listed in ledgers with numerical designations and market values, stripped of humanity. Women 25 to 40 were assigned labor. Those over 40 were executed, deemed too costly to keep. Boys under 6 entered the devshirm system for conversion, while girls under 12 were groomed for imperial roles. This psychological warfare broke spirits. Families watched loved ones torn apart, ensuring compliance. Soldiers separated mothers from infants, sometimes killing crying babies to demonstrate absolute power. Within 48 hours, 50,000 were processed. 12,000 women and girls shipped to slave markets. 8,000 given to soldiers. Ottoman logs listed human cargo besides silk, with entries like 15 females, 16 to 20 years. Excellent condition, erasing names for ages and descriptions. This was no chaotic violence, but an economic system. Markets in Ottoman cities had dedicated human trafficking sections, with prices 20 to 30 silver pieces for a young Greek woman shifting by demand. The Ottomans industrialized slavery, standardizing capture, transport, and sale with corporate precision. Surviving documents reveal meticulous accounting of human misery, fueling an empire where conquest and commerce merged into a relentless machine of domination. Imagine yourself once more as that young mother in Constantinople. 1453. The air reeks of smoke from the smoldering ramparts, your husband's blood still fresh in your memory. Turkish soldiers crash through your door, their faces grim masks of conquest. You hold your infant daughter close, her tiny cries piercing the chaos. Knowing the mercy of his battlefield death pales against the calculated horrors now descending. The Ottoman Empire, that vast colossus stretching across 3 continents for 6 centuries, didn't just seize land, it harvested lives, turning victory into a machinery of exploitation that stripped humanity bare. We often romanticize the Ottomans, the ethereal domes of the Blue Mosque, the cunning tactics that humbled empires, the sultans who redrew maps from Vienna's gates to Yemen's arid wastes. But peel back the gilded veneer, and the archive's dusty tomes in Istanbul's vaults reveal a shadow empire built on systematic brutality. This wasn't the frenzy of war's end. It was policy, etched in military manuals and legal codes, a harvesting protocol that treated populations like crops to be culled and claimed. If tales like this stir your curiosity about history's underbelly, subscribe and drop a comment with your location. It keeps these stories alive. When Ottoman armies breached a city's defenses, the real work began. Constantinople's fall on May 29, 1453, under Sultan Mehmed II, wasn't a fleeting pillage. Within hours, his forces, bound by iron discipline, forced a protocol honed over generations. Byzantine eyewitnesses like George Francis painted scenes of apocalypse, streets slick with blood, families torn asunder. Ottoman ledgers, by contrast, logged it all as administrative drudgery, tallying yields with the detachment of tax collectors. Efficiency was key. Adult men over 12 were herded into groups and executed post-surrender, not as immediate threats but to nip rebellion in the bud. Boys as young as 6 met the sword if they showed defiance, a harsh lesson from prior uprisings where spared youths fueled revolts. Death was men's domain. For women and girls, survival meant subjugation far crueler, sorted in public squares amid the pyres of burning churches. They were categorized by age, health, and value, a spectacle engineered to shatter wills, broadcasting Ottoman dominance to any lingering souls. Prime among them, young women, 14 to 25. The empire's most prized inventory, Records from the conquest list over 4,000 such souls in Constantinople alone, each branded with a number and appraised like fine horses. Physical traits noted, market worth estimated in silver aci. These weren't faceless stats. They were daughters, sisters, mothers, reduced to ledger lines beside bolts of silk. Women 25 to 40. Deemed fit for toil in fields or harems. Their youth faded but utility intact. Over 40. Slaughtered with the men, too burdensome to feed or ship. Children twisted the knife deeper. Boys under 6 funneled into the Defschirm, the empire's infamous levy of Christian youth torn from homes. Circumcised, converted to Islam, and molded into elite janissaries or bureaucrats, loyal only to the Sultan. Girls under 12. No such structured path as the boys, but Ottoman documents euphemize their fate as formation. Grooming them for servitude in households or worse, roles that blurred into sexual exploitation within the imperial fold.